Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Saul was not the death of us. We're back.
Hi.
After a well-deserved break
Yes.
from the 8 Saw movies.
Yeah, and being busy on various different things that we'll have a plug-in time at the end. I'd like to start by giving a couple, well, actually 3 goodbyes to 3 masters on their field that just left us since we last talked to you. Bernardo Bertolucci is no longer with us.
Sad.
So you'll know him obviously from The Last Emperor, but he did Stealing Beauty, which was a big part of what we talked about in the Call Me By Your Name episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was nice because we watched both Stealing Beauty and Call Me By Your Name on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, those 2 film experiences are linked together, and I think that's quite nice to have actually. Because I really, but you think back on, sometimes you think about films and you completely forget them, but I still remember bits of Stealing Beauty, and especially Call Me By Your Name, but there are bits in Stealing Beauty that do stay with you, so yeah. Very nice film. That's really sad, actually.
You haven't watched The Dreamers, which is another of his movies, which is one of Boreanaz's obsession at the moment. That's the floor plan that our lovely people that actually watching the video can see is the plan of the apartment where everything happens. And it was Evergreen's very first, I think, the first movie where she had a lead role.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she ends up naked and it's all artsy and there's ejaculation on the walls and stuff.
Jesus. Well, segueing to Eva Green, have you heard about the new secret cinema experience?
Casino Royale.
Casino Royale is the new secret cinema, and it sounds really good. I'm very tempted to go to this one.
Yeah.
It looks amazing, actually.
Oh, it could be, yeah. It could also.
All the VIP tickets are gone out, but I think the only difference is the VIP one is like you have designated seating, and you get like food and drink vouchers, which makes sense for like the James Bond sort of thing, because you'll get like a James Bond cocktail and sort of stuff like that.
Nice.
There might be like extra missions that they do as well as part of the experience, but
yeah, I think so.
I don't think it's too much different. I think it's a bit extra, but not super much, which is quite nice actually.
My Blade Runner one was VIP, and I was a detective, so probably there are some characters that are like reserved for VIPs. I'm not sure. Also, and you probably for sure actually never heard about this gentleman, Ricky Jay, who also passed away not so long ago. You saw him in The Prestige. He plays Milton. He's the magician. I think it's Borden or the other guy. He's the assistant of that guy, the bearded.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, the name. When you said the name, it definitely rang a bell. I was like, I've heard the name.
Yeah, you'll know his face when you see him. If you look it up, it's got quite a. His face like sticks in your mind. He's got quite a distinct face. That's the word I was looking for.
Distinctive features.
Yeah.
The gentleman. Yeah, it's weird. Your voice was a bit. Yeah. The gentleman by whom I started to be really interested into magic is a French magician who invented thousands of tricks called Dominique Duvivier. And Dominique Duvivier, in the 70s, was really doing his own magic and stuff, and he when he met Ricky Jay and saw his work, he really shattered the way that it changed everything for him. Wow. Like he used to now Dominique Duvivier is more like there is more storytelling than just what usually card magicians are doing, which is just doing card tricks without any story or structure or anything. What apparently the kind of stuff he was doing before. And Ricky Jay was a master, pretty much, to Dominique Duvivier, who was, even though I met Dominique Duvivier a few times, he is still the owner of one of the oldest magic shop in Paris of Europe.
All right. Wow.
Nice.
And also a magic pub, Le Double Fond.
That sounds quite cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a little square in between 4 blocks of buildings in Paris, in the Le Marais, a Jewish corner.
Okay.
Nice.
Very, very nice place. And last, but obviously not least, Stan the Man Lee is gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is this thing that at one point, now it happened, but millions of people would wonder when we would stop having all those cameos in the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
I think I just went to watch Into the Spider-Verse yesterday. He is in, and they added something at the end, which is a bit better than the usual, like the dates, and it's something nice.
They'll probably put that as well at the end of Avengers. I know I know they filmed his cameo is in the new Avengers Endgame. I'm pretty sure maybe Captain Marvel, but I don't know for definite. But yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
not sure because they filmed both Avengers back to back, so
Yes.
they had the footage.
It would make sense, yes.
Yeah. So
And he's got a good cameo as well in the Spider-Man game for the PS4. He's in there too. It's nice, a very nice little Easter egg in there as well.
I shared something on the day that we found out he died, of artists that show the characters that he'd created, and then him like somehow connected, just like really nice like cartoons basically. It's like a really nice homage.
There's speaking of comebacks, ERB, Epic Rap Battles of History, came back yesterday. They have one that's Stan Lee versus Jim Henson. And one of the verses is Stan Lee going about how Jim Henson has passed away. And I'm like, that's quite sad that now both of them are no longer with us.
Yeah.
So that's quite poignant.
Oh.
and so long, guys, and have a better moment in that other plane of existence, or wherever you are right now, on that island with Elvis and
Jimi Hendrix.
Having cocktails with Jimi Hendrix.
On a better note, happy birthday to Georges Méliès, who's also dead, but that's his birthday today, the 8th of December. And Juliette Daniel, who was Lisa in The Room.
Oh, God. We will get to The Room at some point. I'm sure we will.
Great film.
So we were away for a while for different reasons, and I went to Morocco for some time, and I discovered actually when I went back and the time I was actually in Provence, that Alien Isolation, my cousins and uncle have been playing it for a while without my knowledge.
It's good. It's a solid game.
I love watching Adam play that game. It's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, it's an experience.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I do want to get. Although we could actually get it for the PS4 pretty cheap because we've got the camera Yann uses for the head moving and sound mode.
Is it?
Which essentially means that if you make a noise in your flat, the alien will hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have the Kinect, so I have it on the Xbox, so I don't have that ability. But if we had it on the PS4, I think it would work.
I told them that they freaked out. I didn't know it also worked on PS4, which was good.
Yeah. I'm kind of glad that we don't have that.
We should
that's
definitely.
too much pressure.
It's only it'll be cheap now. We should definitely get our hands on that and have a go at that.
So much pressure.
Did I say that I actually went to see David Havcott in the end?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did. Was it amazing?
Yeah, that was good.
Oh.
Yeah. Then the encores were amazing. It was just like jumping around and everything.
Really?
I didn't want, so I had booked for London and Paris, but in Paris I actually had to go see my sister's kid, who was just popped out at the time. But yeah, at the end you can go to the stage door and you can meet him. Well, I had booked my taxi before, so I actually left. But I never met the guy actually. But yeah, I enjoyed his music tremendously, to say the least. So today, a film that talking about my uncle again, that he told me a while ago, you have to watch this. And while I was browsing, while I was waiting for the vinyl corner of Missing Records near Queen Street to open, there were some DVDs and Blu-rays there, and I spotted the Blu-ray for Behind the Candelabra.
Which is today's episode.
Absolutely. It's funny because it's based on a 1988 book called Behind the Candelabra, My Life with Liberace. The film itself is called just Behind the Candelabra, and in French it's Ma vie avec Liberace, which is the second part of the book, My Life with Liberace.
Yeah, okay.
Did you? So I know you saw that it's actually an HBO film, and they kept they recreated probably the HBO logo of the 1970s that starts with this. Yeah. You watched that before, so were you familiar with Liberace before, or with that movie that came your?
I knew I always knew of him, but I never knew extreme details because I knew the extravagance of Liberace. I think most people do, but I didn't really know anything about him or what he did or how big he was at the time. So I knew a bit, but not a lot.
I think quite a lot of like songwriters, they write like, oh, it's like, you know, Liberace is coming to the room, and they'll use his name, and so I feel like he's always going to be in pop culture as well, but like only because of the extravagant clothes that he wore. And so I didn't actually know that he was a gifted musician. So I quite liked the fact that they brought that really in the forefront as well, that actually he's not just some eccentric person who dresses incredibly, but also he was so talented.
Yeah, well, I'll just read quickly the first bit of what his Wikipedia page says for anyone who doesn't know who he is. So, Vladzio Valentino Liberace, born 1919, dead 87, was an American pianist, singer, and actor. A child prodigy and the son of Polish and Italian immigrants, Liberace enjoyed a career spanning 4 decades of concerts, recordings, television, motion pictures, and endorsements. At the height of his fame, from the 50s to the 70s, Liberace was the highest paid entertainer in the world, with established concert residencies in Las Vegas and an international touring schedule. Liberace embraced a lifestyle of flamboyant excess both on and off stage, acquiring the nickname Mr. Showmanship. In our conversation, while we were on our way towards Anna and the Apocalypse the other day, organically came a point, I don't remember how, but that I had planned to touch on here, kind of the reverse typecast. The two leads here are Michael Douglas and Matt Damon. We've never seen them in roles like that before, so they're entirely not a reverse typecast, I would say. That's something that could not be made today because of the Twitter mob, which basically force you to actually take the part of yourself.
I know what this was because we were discussing that. I don't know what the film's called, but apparently William H. Macy is going to play Van Gogh in a film or a TV series or something. And there have been some people that are annoyed that why is he playing this role, to which, because there has always been the topic of what role you should and shouldn't play. And I think we've discussed this at length in Chicken Run. It's in there, and it's in another episode we touched upon about how ethnicity, and especially with, say, Asian actors right now, with the whole, when Scarlett Johansson played in Ghost in the Shell, that raised the issue again of like who should play who, and with Hellboy. But with
Apu being taken out of The Simpsons.
Oh yeah, and that, I forgot about that too. But the idea now that of age, you can't play somebody younger or older than yourself. I'm like, this is getting out of hand now. It's like,
getting out of hand.
What?
That's denying the whole concept of acting.
I agree with that. That's ridiculous.
I think as well, like, I can't remember his name, who, when we were watching on the BBC, the man that was talking, well, there were two men that were talking about representation.
Oh, this was to do on the back of, were they not doing it? There's an Elephant Man coming out.
Yeah, and he had
the ailment.
Is it called elephantitis, or is that a bad word to use? I don't know.
I'm not sure, but I will look it up right now. But
okay.
He spoke really well, actually, and he was an extremely likable guy. He was just like, I don't have a problem with, it's like, he made it about the opportunity should be offered to the people that have this, because we should be allowed to audition for it. Because surely we have an insight that an actor that doesn't have this wouldn't have, which makes total sense. It's like, that should be fair. And then the decision is in somebody else's hand as actors. We know this.
Yeah.
But the idea that the opportunity has to be extended, that's totally fair. That makes sense.
I think it's false, because the anger comes from a place of not being educated and knowing about what goes on in like the casting process. And so it's a lot more. Does my voice sound weird? Sorry. It's a lot more.
Yes.
It's a lot. Is that better? Maybe that was the reason. Anyway, it's a lot more complicated, and I feel like they don't know that it's about representation rather than just showing, the actor being what does the character. That's crazy. It doesn't have to be that way, because we never have a problem with Neil Patrick Harris playing a womanizer on. So where's the balance? Like, because if you make that rule of like you have to be gay, then do you have to be straight to play someone who's a father, like with biological kids? I mean, do you know what I mean? It's like you can't have it both ways, so you have to be careful with that. I feel like, though, that if representation does get better, this Twitter mob thing will die down and we'll have this again. I don't think they'll win, because it's ridiculous.
You've got all those people that are professionally offended, but on behalf of other people who are not even offended themselves.
Yeah, well, it's like I shared when Apu was taken out of The Simpsons because of the whole this is really racist. It's like, okay, well, if it's racist, fine, because it's a stereotype, fine, but give it to an Pakistani Indian actor. Do you know what I mean? It's like there are certain things that you can do to not ban everything but make it better. Or so it's like if something is written by a man, then don't ban it because it's written by a man. Make sure that there are more women writers out there, or gay writers who are writing for people who have different experiences and that we don't see in the mainstream media all the time. So I feel like it's I saw something on Facebook the other day that was really interesting. It's like the way to change things for people in, for example, who have disabilities, who are in wheelchairs, make sure that there are ramps in certain places rather than making fun of people with legs. It's like that balance of like, don't oppress one side, don't fight fire with fire, basically.
It's interesting because if you look, we can use a prime example of this. Me and Anouk went to Berlin 2 Christmases ago, and we went out to a nightclub, Kater Blau, in Berlin, and in there was a guy who was didn't have any function below the neck down, and he was in a nightclub having the best time ever, and that wouldn't happen in Britain because you can't get in. There's no access for like wheelchairs at all in Britain for people in a wheelchair, or if there is, there's with the places I've been, I've never seen them, or it's not as common. And just to see that is like, that's so far ahead. Just the tiny little things of like inclusion.
Yeah,
you know?
It's about, I think we're in this really dangerous state of like, if we want to include people, we can't just then say, you've had your time, it's over for you. Like, it doesn't work like that, because the people that you think are always on mainstream media are also oppressed in their own way.
Equality isn't taking away somebody's rights, it's increasing somebody's rights to the rights of everyone else. Exactly.
It's just leveling the playing field. So, but I do feel like this mob mentality, it's not going to last very long. I think it's just like an angry state, and I think with the changes that we're seeing with more women writers, more women directors, more LGBT rights, blah blah blah, like everyone fighting for the right things, who might not get that much noise in the media. It's like because we hear so much of the extremes, right? So I feel like this film will be seen again. Like straight men playing gay men, it's not an issue.
To pick up on the thing Anouk said earlier about elephantitis, for Joseph Merrick, or commonly John Merrick, it was originally considered elephantitis, but now it's thought to be a severe case of neurothrombosis. Is what John Merrick had, which is the film that I don't remember who the actor is apparently doing it, because we haven't heard anything about it yet. We'll see when it comes out.
So this film, Behind the Candelabra, was directed by Steven Soderbergh in 2013. We owe Sex, Lies and Videotape, the Oceans trilogy, and Magic Mike to Steven Soderbergh.
Apparently, he said that he was going to take a break from filmmaking after this film. So I don't know, have we heard anything from him since, or is he still on that break for now?
I don't know, but I watched the filmography, and you don't have that many stuff on there.
Right.
The latest thing is Unsane.
Right.
Which was released last year, I think.
Oh, yes.
But I had a thing about that. That title didn't make sense to me. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to see that though, because it sounded quite an interesting premise. But I when you brought it up, I was like, oh yeah,
that was this year, I think. That film was this year.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because we were still on that play when it was out, because it was on buses, because we were walking back from a rehearsal. Anyway, I have to say, on the note of Anouk talking about,
what was I talking about?
Like equality and so on, and taking risks and all that thing with trying new ideas.
Yeah.
A bravo for HBO and the producers behind this film, like taking a chance with this, because you wonder, like, why was this not picked up by a major motion production company and it went to HBO? Because it's surely as a commercial vehicle, this would be a great idea. But it seems to me that nobody wanted it.
Yeah, I think that if you're in a very cool like an environment, it's weird that people would think that watching a man and a man kiss is uncomfortable. But I do feel like people are still worried about putting that out there. I think
ever since we would say the is it fair to say that not mainstream, but the two mainly considered male gay movie and then women to women lesbian films are Brokeback Mountain and Blue is the Warmest Color? Yeah. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Those two are the most widely known. And when was Brokeback Mountain? Like 2006?
Yeah. But that was shocking, wasn't it?
Well, that in the retrospect of like how it was just out there and everyone's like, there was the outrage, and obviously because there's always outrage when something people don't like comes out, it's like, I'm not seeing this movie, this shouldn't be out here, whatever. It's like,
it's funny how mentalities evolve, because you don't see anything explicit in Brokeback Mountain.
No, you don't.
The Blue is the Warmest Color is softcore porn.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that a European film as well?
That's a French film.
It's a French film.
Yeah.
La Vie d'Adèle.
Right. I was going on a point there or something.
I feel like also European films are always a little bit more open with the sexuality. I think. Or bodies, at least.
Let's put it this way, right? We're linking from the marathon we just did with Saw, right? Depending on where you are in the world, your board of certification has different criteria. For example, the BBFC has a different rating system than the American system. For instance, the Saw movies, you're more likely to see a Saw movie in America and all that gore than you are to see, a breast. Yeah. Or even so, actually, just recently, there was a whole radio debate about the fact in Outlaw King that you saw Chris Pine's penis for about 3 seconds. And I'm like, what are we talking about? It's not like I don't know if you guys ever saw the TV series It's by Stars, Spartacus.
Yes.
Like, it was full on both male and female nudity. Like, I don't know if I would describe it as equal amount, but there was definitely both male to female nudity.
Manu Bennett is something. It was, yeah, he went on to do some DC stuff on CW after that.
Mm.
Yeah. Talking about So 1 second, the 3D version exists. I
we
saw it and I purchased
we
it
found
in that shop I talked about earlier. See? There.
So next time I am in Dunfermline, I will take the DVD with me and I will review it either in a blog post or in like a 10-minute thing.
And I will go shopping that day.
It's the worst one of the series.
I'm not watching Saw ever again.
I think I said 7 or 5 are the worst two. But anyway,
I do feel though that it didn't feel gratuitous.
Which?
The sex and the kissing and the touching in this film.
Oh, this film we're about to. Okay.
Oh well, yeah, that's true, and mostly it's after sex always. Before
there's maybe like one scene where they're having sex.
Increasingly, what I'm starting to be annoyed with is that the sex scenes, like they start and they're falling in love, so obviously they have sex. In this one, that's different because they just had sex.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And I feel like that scene is quite common, that you do see that quite a lot, where two people will just like flump onto the bed and like they're out of breath and they're sweating and it's obvious what you've just been doing.
It's a great framing device for having had passionate sex.
Of course.
It's great because you don't have to show anything. And the board of certification, you're still going to get your 15.
Right.
Because if you put anything extra in, you're going to push yourself up to an 18 or an R rating. You know, you're going to push yourself too far.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also probably easier for actors, so it doesn't have to be contracts and all these things. But talking about the border certificate, well, what were we watching? I can't remember, but there was someone who was talking about how people were wearing nude suits, and
we were watching a quiz show called Only Connect, and one of the questions was it was people that had opened the Olympic ceremonies from Australia, Sydney, Athens, Beijing, and so on, right? And the one in Athens, they did a recreation of what the ancient Olympics would have been, which was, they would have been naked.
They would have been nude.
But they were wearing nude suits, so like flesh-coloured onesies, essentially.
Yeah. But of course, America...
Yeah.
Censored the nude suits.
They pixelated the breast areas and all that of the suits, even though they weren't naked.
Which then Victoria Coren Mitchell was like, how strange is America? That like even... something that isn't actually your body is censored because just the thought of it is taboo. Yeah,
so that's a big thing. I mean, in British cinema, you do get more sex scenes than you would. I don't even know what you would consider. I don't know American indie films very well at all as a genre.
No.
I know there will be.
That's probably the Puritan roots. Like in public, you have to watch, but in the privacy of their home or hardcore porn. I mean, like in Japan, I don't know if you've ever managed to find a porn without the genitals blurred. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Even porn.
Yeah.
So that's
everyone has different things that work. I mean, even in Japan with anime, the anime has a different degree of sexuality than what we would say, like what we would have in our animation. So wherever you are in the world, your own culture and your own society sets your own rules on what they think is acceptable on cinema, what screen and what isn't, really.
And I mean, I get it, like, and I mean, there are statistics, right? I think Pornhub did this one year, or maybe every year they do it. Statistics on what kind of porn each. How did we get to this subject?
Yann brought up pornography.
Well, they watch in this film.
Okay, they do, don't they? Yeah, so we're fair enough with this. Yeah.
It's interesting as
sorry,
well.
Mum.
There is this whole thing. Yeah, sorry, Carol, and my mum is probably watching too. All our mums are watching.
I know,
the stream, not porn.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah. Anyway. But it's interesting because I mean, there's this whole thing of like, I don't mind gay people, just don't do it in front of me. Like I have a problem with it, with watching it. I think a lot of people think like that when it comes to watching things like Brokeback Mountain and then this film as well. It's just like, oh, why do I need to see that? And
we even know actors that are a bit like that. That'll say no to gay roles, and you're like, what does it matter? You're acting.
Like,
It's your job.
in this film, essentially, the only scene that would, in that regard, be would be disturbing is the one with the poppers, because that's clear that they're actually doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
But the after sex ones and everything, no, I don't.
No.
As an actor, I have no qualms about playing any sexuality. I mean, that's why we're actors. We enjoy inhabiting other roles and what we can bring to something. It's not.
I think
I wouldn't like a world where I could only play a straight person.
No, and
you know?
also you learn as an actor. You're going to play a part with as much respect and as much connection to what the real thing would have felt like. So as an actor, you don't come onto a part and be like, God, I'm not going to play this in that way. Like, you'll play it as connected to the part as like, that's your job. It's just, it's ridiculous. And also that would make you learn, right? So why shouldn't it be almost a criteria? It's like, you should live outside yourself to learn what that experience is like. So actually, it's a really good thing that people who haven't experienced it go into the part. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's actually a good thing for people.
Especially if you're doing a great job, because this is a true story.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Uh-huh.
And both Matt Damon and Michael Douglas are married, not together, but on their sides.
Yeah.
And they're
straight.
They're straight. Yeah. And well, the more footage we have, like, of the real person, obviously, is Liberace. So we can clearly see that Michael Douglas's work is quite incredible there.
Yeah, I think Michael Douglas in this is phenomenal. I think he captured something that you just know it when you see it. I think that's a problem when you take on real life people, right? As an actor, is where do you draw the line of doing either an impersonation while saying lines, or you as an actor inhabiting that role and bringing something of you, which, bringing back to Yann saying David Halfgot, sorry. I'm thinking of some The Chase for some reason. Because we're talking about quiz shows. With the actor that played him, that was inhabiting him while bringing himself to it. And it's the same here. And that's what's enjoyable to watch.
It's a problem when, so Dave Chappelle talks about this, when a production company or casting directors will watch something and then bring the director in and say, can you change the woman or the man character for someone who is more commercially universally attractive or universally tasteful. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, appealing, exactly. It's like and that translate as white, or straight or pretty or skinny, whatever, and that's when it becomes a problem. When that's when you can say as an actor, actually, I think this should be given to the person that is, connected to it in experience, because they got the part in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Like, if a production company is telling you that you need to be more universally appealing, that's when it becomes a problem, and that actor should be like, actually, no, I'm not going to take this role because it should be given to the person that who got the audition in the first place.
Wait, what? I know what you mean, but I'm just like...
Yeah, like if which only ever happens for entirely fictional productions,
right?
Obviously, because you've got some limits when it's based on the true story. Like here, I think here they just changed the name of his first protege, Liberace's protege, when he's on the stage at the start with the two pianos. The guy who's looking like he's very annoyed, which is quite nice, because at the end it's kind of a mise en abîme thingy. There's the same shot at the end. So yeah, this guy is called Billy Leatherwood in the film, and his actual name is Jerry O'Rourke, but everyone else has their real name.
Right. Okay.
So sometimes I've checked, I've watched the BBC documentary, and it looks that they didn't take that many liberties with the story. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I was making sense. I just mean that there are sometimes I do understand when an actor should
Right, that's what I was
step back.
Yeah, that's what I was confused about, because we just
Yeah.
spent 20 minutes talking about the opposite, and then you just talked about the other side of it.
Well, yeah, because we're a discussion podcast, so we should be giving the other side of it. That sometimes you, as an actor, you should step back and be like, especially if the reason why the other actor isn't getting the part is because the production company is thinking that they are
right, I see what you mean.
you're not universally tasteful, then it's like Dave Chappelle, for example, had a right to be like, do you know what? No, I don't want to change her to be a white person because that's you being racist. Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah.
So Dave Chappelle had a right to be like, I'm going to step back from the whole production and go to Africa. But that's a whole new story.
Is that because today cinema is way, way more in the homes? Because when it was the time when Eddie Murphy was doing everything how he wanted to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly think it's because social media has given everyone a voice. And as much as that's awesome, it also means that people that don't understand the whole story don't need to. They can just vent.
We live in a world where the more outraged you are, the more people hear you. Yeah. Not necessarily agree with you, but you will be heard more.
Yeah.
And that's where the whole mob mentality has evolved from. The idea of, if I get outraged about this enough,
well,
I will find people that will agree with me.
Yeah.
One of the major things to do to attract attention to yourself, there's posting nudes. That will have some success with that. Controversy. That you're sure to, if you manage to put your finger on the right thing at the right moment, well, you'll probably, if you have a solid backbone like Professor Jordan Peterson, you're fine. But if you don't, you'll be crushed.
That's a really interesting thing you've just brought up with nudes, because I remember when that guy hacked all the celebrities' whatever it is. I'm stumbling there.
iCloud.
There it is. Yeah, I was gonna go AirPod. No, that's not it. PodCloud. No. And leaked all those photos. Everyone was outraged, and it was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
But now we have platforms like, say, OnlyFan, which is a website similar to Patreon, but it seems to have a non-nudity clause. I.e., with Patreon, you can't post certain things, where you can charge people to look at your nude. So even the culture around sexuality with people's bodies has changed within 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, of course.
So culture is ever changing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I had a double take. Well, I had a double haha moment in this movie. At one point, we see Matt Damon in a mankini, like G-string, with glitter on it. So that's okay. That's interesting. And less than 20 seconds later, we see Liberace without his wig.
Yes. That scene, I feel like that was interesting actually, because the scene that he comes out of the pool and he's got the Diamante white whatever, like mankini things. Yeah, well, there's not a thong because it's you don't see his ass.
Well, it's like swimming briefs.
Yeah. So and then he immediately like straddles Liberace, and it's like, it's quite shocking because you don't expect to see that in a film. Like, you don't. And so...
Well, you don't expect to see males doing that. You could see that in like a 60s James Bond sort of thing. You know, he comes out of the water and goes over to...
Straddling? Are you sure?
Well, I would say straddling. No, I would say straddling to a degree.
So do you think if Matt Damon was a woman, I wouldn't have been as shocked? I feel like I would have been, but maybe I'm
well,
just
maybe,
being in
yeah,
denial.
that's quite a double standard. If the woman comes out of the water and then straddles the man, I think with a man being on top, is that more? I know what you mean because it's two males.
Maybe,
but I don't know if I would. Would you feel the same? But maybe that's because we've seen so long in film and in history. We've always seen the woman is with the man in film, and that's always how it's shown.
I kind of disagree. I kind of think, not with your whole point. I mean, I disagree with, if it was a woman, I would have been shocked, because I think straddling isn't something that's done in Hollywood, because it's not exactly pretty, is it? And I don't think
yeah.
it's something that you can like romanticize. And Hollywood is all about like idealistic relationships, right? So I feel like a woman will usually come out of the water, go onto the lap of a man, but it wouldn't be like legs akimbo.
Yeah, probably.
It would be legs together, and she'd sit on his
She'd
lap.
sit on the sunbed with him, sort of thing.
So
maybe
I feel
that's
like
right.
I feel like it's not about them being gay. I think it's just because we don't see. We don't. I mean, it would have been a little bit because we don't see gay couples a lot as well on screen in that position. But I think it also is because we don't see people straddling in general.
Well, it does look like a wrestler is wrestling a dead fish. It's not pretty.
It's not pretty, exactly, and it's
Well, they wanted to have that all in there, so HBO is obviously cable, so the whole thing is behind the paywall and not public TV. And I was wondering if it was because the Liberace Foundation wasn't really crazy about that whole book and everything, that it never went into massive Hollywood production.
Maybe. I guess because Liberace, when you think, kind of, even in the film as well, he's very much like, I don't want anything said about me. And he has that, and he's like very much like the whole Rock Hudson thing, where you keep up a sham that he's married, he's fallen in love, even to the extent that he writes his own fiction about how he lost his virginity to somebody older, and all these things that people did back in the 60s and 70s when it was unacceptable to come out as gay, and even in Britain you would be killed, you know. Well, maybe not the 60s, but like when with Alan Turing, we had that issue with like it was illegal, because isn't that the case in a really good series that's been nominated for Golden Globes, A Very British Scandal?
Oh wow!
With Ben Whishaw and Hugh Grant.
I
can't remember if by that point it was illegal at that point. I don't think it is, because
I think it had just become legal.
Yeah, it's just after that. So I can't remember the time period.
I think it's less that. I think it's also that they have lots of female fans who find them attractive, and so if your whole persona in the public eye is to be like a female sex symbol, male sex symbol, somewhere, you are kind of screwing up with your whole fan base.
It's to do with your image. Like nobody's going to come and see you because like, no woman is going to see you because you're not available. It's the same thing that happened with the Beatles. You know, if they had girlfriends, that would probably have to be hushed up, because you wanted all these single girls that thought they could have a chance with one of the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing.
Liberace, Rock Hudson, Roy Cohn, the guy in Angels of America. It was also the same period when the AIDS was blooming.
Yeah, right. Even with Freddie Mercury as well.
I watched. Also, I went to watch Bohemian Rhapsody in French and in English, so we can talk about that when we want.
Point,
yeah. Because wasn't he the first person to die of AIDS as a celebrity?
I think Rock Hudson. I think maybe Rock Hudson was first.
Oh really?
I want to say Rock
Mercury was first.
I'll check that up. But
I thought that was kind of a known thing, that he was the first celebrity to be known as, the face of.
Well, no, I think Freddie came out. People knew, because there was a big thing of keeping. I think that's one of the things, isn't it? That he was public that he had AIDS.
Yeah, no, he didn't want to be their poster boy.
But he became it.
AIDS poster boy.
Yeah, but he became it, didn't he? In terms of, I don't know. I think I just heard that he was the first person to be connected to AIDS as a celebrity.
I don't remember, because it's in my Bohemian Rhapsody notes, not here.
Yeah,
right,
I mean,
he was diagnosed with AIDS in '87.
So
he's definitely not the first to go.
That's the exact same date as that's also Liberace, 87.
Well, he doesn't die until 1991. No, sorry. Where is it? Oh, this is just the whole article. Keep going. I'll just look it up.
It should be in the front, babe.
I was reading the article, a bit of it. He dies 91, so he's not the first to die. Rock Hudson would have been first.
But did they know about Rock Hudson?
Well, it came out because the autopsy. It's the same thing that happens here. They went, he died of AIDS, because that was the big thing with here as well, is because obviously Liberace is trying to preserve, because the one of the best things about the performance here by Douglas is the range of emotions that he shows, but underneath everything you get this feeling of desperate loneliness that is there, and just so much worry about people loving him, or like being the best thing for every other people, like wanting to make people happy, to the extent, and when he's dying, he's like hides the fact that it was AIDS. They try and quote it that it was a heart attack by having a doctor come in and do it.
Yeah,
you know,
be gay.
When you watch the BBC thing, the guy the coroner who actually made the counter press conference, shamelessly said like, is ego-fueled moment to actually reveal to the world that Liberace died from AIDS.
Wow.
Like, okay, and you're happy with your life, man. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's such rubbish.
I mean, but especially with the way the world was in '87, you know. But it's a different time. We weren't. Well, Yann was around, but me and you weren't.
Yeah.
To know what.
I was 8.
Yeah, hardly. You wouldn't really know about society, would you?
I think for some, it was always a big. When you find out something like gossip hasn't gone away, you know, like you get all these gossip magazines, like even to the lower extent of like, oh, is she dating him or is he dating her? Like there is a press market for like shock news, you know.
Yeah, of course, and there always will be, because it's a way of like making you feel better about your own life. Like, why do you think EastEnders are still a thing? You know, like. People like to watch people go through the most horrible things.
I mean, to be fair, there was a bunch of people who really wanted to know, because he won the 67 million lawsuit that was for libel against a journal. I don't remember who implied or clearly said that he was gay. He won. In that TV film, he references that at some point. That's from this libel that he actually testified for the first time, saying that he wasn't gay. So it was like,
well, that happens in the.
He had no choice afterwards. Anyway.
That happens in British Scandal as well.
Yeah.
At the end, I won't spoil that, but if you watch A Very British Scandal, and we get to the court scenes, you'll see what I mean there. We get that whole thing as well.
Just goes to show that like people were terrified of coming out, and celebrities it wasn't a choice. It was like this will ruin my career, and it might have done. Actually,
I don't know very many cases of people that did come out. I mean, there will be people that did come out, but I don't know enough about that coming out history really. Very.
So I don't know. I didn't check how the real guy looks like, but Rob Lowe as a plastic surgeon is creepy as fuck.
Really creepy.
It's such a good performance.
It's so good.
It's such a good performance.
Interesting that it was painful, because I was thinking like, how did they make his face like that? It's
lots of tape, apparently.
Yeah, lots of
tapes and a wig.
Yeah. He was so good. It was so. I think it was really believable.
I just love the fact that in Las Vegas, it's even actually, and I read the Godfather book, and there's whole sections about being in Las Vegas and talking about these terrible doctors that live out in Las Vegas, that you would take advice about plastic surgery from the guy that looks how Rob Lowe looks in this film. You're like, I want to look like that.
But I think that plastic look is kind of in. Like, people do like that. Some
Rob
people.
Lowe's character looks like that guy that's described as like the Ken doll. Do you know the guy I mean that's had like over like 200 operations?
Oh yeah,
that guy.
I think Matt Damon looked more like him, but yeah.
They have there's a definite feel of that person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who's in a Louis Theroux documentary and the Carl Pilkington scene as well.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this doctor here is like the two hairdressers joke, like the story. Like the face he has is creepy as fuck, but obviously he didn't do that to himself. It's like if you have two hairdressers, will you choose the one with the weird and like bushy hair, disgusting, or the clean cut one? Well, you obviously take the bushy hair one because he clean cut the other one, and it's a kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess that's
he looks like crap, but he's a good he's doing a good job. Have you ever when that doctor takes charge because Lee wanted Scott to look exactly like him, which is gives us surreal scenes,
really creepy, yeah,
all the way through. Have you ever heard or seen anyone actually use the sun mirror that he's using? You know, like to tan.
I've never used it. I don't know if it works.
I think it was a thing in the 80s.
Yeah.
I think it's an 80s thing. I might ask my parents if they ever used it.
Possibly.
Next time I see them.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it works, but it won't work as much as...
My mum and dad told me that before they went on one of their holidays once, they had to go in like the sunbeds before they went on holiday. I was like, I didn't know people actually did that.
Oh,
and they'll
yeah.
get a tan before they go out on holiday to get a head start.
Yeah, people do that for everything as well. If they have like a big night out as well, they'll go for a tan and...
You know the tetrachloride cleaning product for suits that got him to heavy sweat and kidneys shutting down. That was also real.
Really?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. When I've watched this BBC thing, it really played out just like the HBO film. It was like, okay, that's sometimes I went to see the Secret Unlimited. Recently, it was Green Book, which is going to be released in 2 months, actually. So that was quite a preview. And it's a story, but that's two guys traveling. There's this Italian migrant and from New York and traveling with the a black guy played by Mahershala Ali and Dr. Don Shirley. And it's a nice story, but the story is written just like here. The story is written from Scott's perspective. On that other movie, it's written from the driver perspective, and there are some disagreements and very annoyed people from the artist side. Whereas here, looking at the documentary and watching some other stuff, it looks like everything went well. Scott was pretty... was pretty straightforward in his writing of that bio because he's not putting himself in kind of glorious figure. He's taking drugs. He's doing weird stuff.
Yeah.
He's
not painted as a hero or a great guy. Like he totally... but what was nice is that he's just so naive in the beginning. And they do it so well because it's not like exposition. It's shown in, how he'll ask a question and it's like, oh my goodness, you are so naive and so stupid. But he just wanted to be a vet. It's just kind of sad, actually. But I feel like for me, the creepy turning point was the plastic surgery thing, because it was like Liberace is literally carving your face up to make you look like him when he was younger. And I think this whole thing of like recycling young boys is just to make himself look younger. It's like he can only be obsessed with himself.
And they don't, when the first time I watched it on my own, I didn't notice it, but it was quite clear in watching this one, when the mother, played by Debbie Reynolds, is with the casino machine, she says, and that's also true, that he had a twin brother who died at birth.
Yeah.
That has potential to mess with your brain. And could explain some stuff. I don't know. To do a quick recap on the proteges. So we had the guy I talked about earlier, Jerry O'Rourke, who actually he played with the piano on stage with him. In the book, Scott writes that guy was married with children, but was persuaded to leave them behind to live and work with Liberace.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's That's wow.
Another one, the most famous one, potentially Vince Cardell. They performed with him with matching outfits. Was a piano player. They recorded an album. Liberace presents Vince Cardell, and he eventually became a master pianist, and he played in other places and died in 2012. And the last guy, who is actually played by Boyd Oldbrook, who you will remember being the lead in The Predator, the little young guy, the young Americans with the mustache.
Oh,
That triggers the friends' jealousy.
I thought I recognised him, but I couldn't work out where it was from.
yeah, you're right.
I was like, he's so familiar. Is he in The Predator?
Yeah, he's the lead, McKenna.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Oh.
I see it now. I see
Yeah.
it now. Excellent.
He also died in he died 2 years before of AIDS. That guy, Carrie James, was called.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant the actor.
No.
I was like,
No.
wait, what?
Oh, is that the running on the kid with my car
I
kind
think
of moment again?
I was wondering.
No.
I was wondering if that's what the film was doing with that link. Is like he gave Liberace AIDS.
Yeah, that's what I got, and I didn't know if he got it from, because you will never know as
No,
well,
you
because
won't.
Liberace was also in those horrible adult video store, and he was, messing around with glory holes, which can't be good. So I mean, I think that's said, right, that there's a glory hole thing, and I feel like that is definitely a
Well, he
link
doesn't do drugs, because that was the thing in Trainspotting where you got AIDS via sharing the needles.
Right, but that was I don't know when that came about, but like I think I don't know, maybe in the late 80s it was already known, but I'm not sure if sharing needles was like a known thing that could give you AIDS too, because it's like AIDS gay, it's connected.
Yeah,
and that's the only way. So like women can't get it and all this stuff.
Well, it's to do with it's blood and fluid transition. So that's why you get it from sharing needles, because you get the blood from somebody else.
Yeah, the concentration is way bigger than the mercury. Yeah.
And I don't know when that was common knowledge though.
That's true.
With sharing needles and blood transfusion and all that kind of stuff. Like I don't know when it changed from just being gay people dying from AIDS and then becoming.
Well, I think probably
anyone.
that was fed in by hatred and homophobia would definitely drive up that AIDS was just a gay thing. You only got it from gay people,
Oh yeah, sure.
I think that would definitely play into that.
It's interesting that because he remained a Christian and still got
Catholic.
Catholic, yeah.
Yeah.
Catholic, yeah. Still got the proper burial.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't know, but actually he went. The thing was in the church, which is way. Ophelia killed herself. She fell in. She drowned, and but she never got a proper burial. Well, that's fiction. That's true. Hamlet, but.
Oh well, yeah, because suicides don't get a burial, right?
Yeah,
that's the thinking.
Well, if he was supposed to be a sinner.
Yeah, it's yeah, well, yeah, but I feel like that. Oh, so I see your point. Yeah, so he was a sinner, but he was given a proper Catholic burial.
Is suicide a sin?
Yeah,
yes,
a deathly sin.
Deathly
in
sin.
in Catholicism.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about Catholicism. I did not know
and
that.
so is if you're not baptized and you die, you're not allowed to be buried in holy ground, and that's what happens in Tessa d'Urberville's. Her baby wasn't allowed a burial.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
The more you know.
Critics were not most of the public, most old ladies, lols, liked him, but he was like bashed heavily by the critics.
Right.
He's you watch the old footage, and it's very much like he was. You can see why he made the money, because he was he was a product, and once you start becoming a product, you become very easy to bash. I mean, you don't have to look far even nowadays, where if you're famous for just one thing, people will pick on you for that one thing. Like, prime example, if you make money or you make your living through, say, YouTube, right? Mainstream media will look down on you because, they don't consider being a content creator on YouTube or even podcasting probably in the same degree as, going 3-4 years to university and getting a degree, then going to do that. You're not seen in the same regard. So anyone that makes money doing something very easy always gets torn apart by the critics. Well, not easy to them, because we know the effort that goes in. Being a YouTube creator is so stressful because the constant flow of the work you have to make. It's the same with us. The podcast only works because we want to get up and make another episode. If there was no feeling for us to go, we'll just leave it, we'd never make an episode, Well,
I think it's also a weird thing of like, you have to make it look effortless. Yeah. Otherwise, no one wants to watch it. So I think, and also because everyone has a TV and a phone and a laptop and a thing, and it's everywhere. And so it's like, well, that must be really easy to do, blah, blah, blah. So, I don't really care about, they must be doing the easiest thing ever.
They can say what they like about Liberace. I mean, they did sell out the City Rock. What's it called again?
Rock. Oh, yeah. In
City Hall.
City Hall. Radio City.
Radio City Hall in New York.
Radio City Music Hall.
Multiple nights. So
you're always there's always going to be people that hate you for no reason. Like even if you're just a person. Like, I've got people that don't like me. Who am I? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I've never done anything that will cause controversy. Well, maybe, who knows?
I mean, there's there's even people we know in the acting industry, even our industry, or even aren't in the creative industry, that will support you until you are more successful than they are, and then they hate you because of either jealousy or annoyance. There's always somebody will always watch a film and go, I'm better than that. I could do that.
Yeah.
Of course. There's always going to be that because
you've got the haters.
That comes from insecurity, though, doesn't it? So that's easier to swallow.
I mean, this guy was gifted because I found a video. It's 19 minutes. The first 3 minutes, he asks just like improv, suggestions from the audience for 3 minutes, and then he says that rather than do them all and pause in the middle, it actually follows with a 16-minute medley with everything mixed together.
Yeah. And the way that he was playing the piano, it's like not many people can do that.
It's just effortless.
And being on stage and working so hard, like it's a tough life, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And but it's like the same thing. It's like you, for example, say what you want about Beyonce, right? Hate her or love her, you watch her on screen or you watch her live, and you cannot say that she's not talented.
I actually have a very good something I saw today. Actually, some people had taken a clip of Dua Lipa on stage, and they were annoyed because she didn't have any stage presence. Like, she's just kind of bopping to the music,
right? And
they're like, the whole chain that I saw going down were just people going, why would you pay to see this? There's no effort going on in this performance. I'm just kind of like, why are you there then? The people that are there to see it.
I have no idea who that is. So
she's a female. She recently,
huge.
She's huge right now.
But the thing with Dua Lipa though is that she is quite natural. Like, I don't think she overdoes it.
Yeah.
And like, it depends on what your stage presence is, because people would very happily be. Well, it's like they're giving shtick to Ed Sheeran at the moment because he did a song with Beyonce, and of course Beyonce comes out in this amazing, huge pink dress, and she's like up to the nines. But that's her style.
Let me guess, he comes out in jeans and a t-shirt.
Exactly, exactly. And it's like, oh, you could have made an effort, Ed Sheeran, and it's like, Ed Sheeran has always been like that. Why did you think that he'd somehow come out looking like fucking Michael Bublé? Like, it's crazy. Or like, oh yeah, now he's Jay-Z. Like, no. They'd probably, if he came out looking as kind of flamboyant as Beyonce did, they would have given him shtick for that too.
Yeah,
why are you changing yourself?
You because sell out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, you can't. It's just, if it was the other way around, they'd hate you too. So I feel like the interesting thing about someone like Liberace as well is that he's so insecure and he's so lonely, but also he must have had quite a lot of even though he's probably surrounded by yes men, so maybe he never heard the shit, but it's like he must have heard it a little bit. So you do also have to be quite strong to take on that much hatred. So it's a weird balance of like maybe no wonder he's so insecure, because people do say horrible things, because it's like they might think that what they say don't ever get to you as a person, or you're not really a person because you're a product and blah, blah, blah.
He wanted people to love him, and he was the first to spike the lens on TV.
Yeah, that's kind of cool though. That is a cool thing to be to do a first of, right?
Yeah, it's not bad.
And I really like that song. Like, I can't remember the melody, but it's like that's what happens when Liberace winks at me. I was like, that is such a cute song. And then he's spiking the lens.
No.
Oh, it's great.
How are we for time, Yann?
Oh,
We're good. I still have we're good.
Cool.
An hour and 6 minutes.
All right.
That was in terms of cinematography, just like the flamboyance of the subject matter. There was a glamorous glow all the way through, overexposed, saturated, which you don't see often, except in films, people that just don't set their cameras properly.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that was done on purpose, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the whole garishness of Las Vegas, I guess.
Yeah,
which
and
is oversaturated and bright and
palatial kitsch, as he puts it. Yeah, it's quite over the top. It's funny as well because sometimes like when we were watching like a documentary on Michael Jackson, because when Matt Damon and was walking around looking at Liberace's home, maybe I shouldn't call him Matt Damon, Scott Thorson, I was thinking about Michael Jackson because he kind of had that palatial kitsch thing too.
yeah.
And would always go to these showrooms and buy two of something ridiculous, and I feel like I've always wanted to know, did these people know that they were ridiculous and they kind of liked it, or did they literally think, oh my god, that's so beautiful, and that's just like the pinnacle of sophistication, when actually it's just this ridiculous, which I quite liked about Liberace, because he was like, oh, I call it palatial kitsch. So he kind of knew that he was into really strange furniture and like overly wrought gold things. But I guess that's just, that was his style.
And even in the filmmaking, you had the famous, now I would say, ass shot.
Of who?
Of Scott being filmed through the... of Scott being filmed through the legs of the guy who just told him that he's just just another the guy that will be gone soon enough.
Yeah. I didn't actually even clock where the camera was, but I was like, that must have been so awkward for that actor. Like,
So
can
it's
you just stay really
sore
still?
on the calves anyway.
Yeah.
There's the film I haven't watched, but I need, because it looks a bit like this one. The Incredible Burt Wonderstone. I don't know if you've heard about that.
No.
It's kind of a Siegfried and Roy pastiche with there's well, I'll find out and tell you at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's two magicians, and there is the kind of the new younger one that arrives. But anyway, the plastic surgery thing reminded me, there is a French film called Rock and Roll, directed by Guillaume Canet and with Marion Cotillard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird. Like at some point they are having surgery, but like they look like elephant people, actually, just like John Merrick. It's so weird. And when they were in production, they posted Instagram pictures, but without telling where it was from. So I've got somewhere on Marion Cotillard's Instagram profile a picture of her looking like, well, I'll try to find that picture. It's really hideous, and just with the subtext like, yeah, finally did surgery or something like.
Oh God, people must have freaked out.
Even worse than what they did with Meg Ryan.
Yeah,
which was already not that great.
I mean, because you've got someone like Pete Burns as well. Do you remember him? He was I want to say cross-dresser, but it might have been a transfer. I'm not sure, but he was like lips like 6 inches away from his face. Like everything was so plasticated. It was so overly done. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there you go.
Mm?
I'm looking up just to see what.
Is that the one of the Versace? There's a woman who looks a bit weird.
Oh, that's Penelope Cruz.
No.
The one that played
No,
Versace.
the real
Oh yeah, the real woman. She's definitely yeah, definitely. I don't know. I mean, you kind of want to be like, was that a mistake? Did you overdo it? But I think it's a style.
Oh, it's one of those crooks surgeons that's like here.
And I mean, because there's a Louis Theroux documentary, right, on plastic surgery, and it's I don't know if it is in medical journals, but it's like an addiction.
He's got quite a good statement about his sexuality, actually. I'll just read it from
Pete Burns.
Yeah, he goes, "People always want to know, am I gay, bi, trans, or what? I say, forget all that. There's got to be a completely different terminology, and I'm not aware if it's been invented yet. I'm just Pete."
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's what we talked about in Overlord. Don't put me in any group, I'm me.
Yeah.
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 I'll just talk about that documentary again. So that's the Liberace documentary on Reputation, BBC 2000. And there's a nice thing that how to make yourself liked on sets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. One of the interviewees explains that during Liberace's visit to the BBC studios, he walked into the studio asking people's names and would remember them using Corinda's mnemonic system. So he was able to gain people's trust using this method. It's around 27 minutes in the video. I'll link that. Apparently, he was also able to remember their names when he went back to England after 4 years.
That would help you out.
200 people on set.
So that's where Tom Cruise got it from.
That's like Tom Cruise.
Yeah, that's where Tom Cruise got it from. Liberace.
Wow. I mean, there you go.
It's one of the founders of mentalism, Tony Corinda. That's not his real name, but that's what he is on books called. Wrote a 13 steps to mentalism, and he has one method in there. So you use that. Yeah. In the same documentary, you can see that Liberace had a cameo in the original series, The Batman.
Wow.
So that guy was. He was on stage with Muhammad Ali. He was. I wonder who would be, if we could find one, an equivalent today for YouTube. Jeffree Star.
Maybe.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
You'll have to watch the Shane Dawson documentary.
Yeah, I've just seen the trailer, so but it looks a bit like. And politics, Donald Trump.
Is this Liberace?
I would say Berlusconi. Berlusconi was a bit Liberace-esque.
Yeah.
You know, you never knew what you were gonna get.
I feel like I don't know. I didn't think Liberace was a sleaze though. I never.
That's true.
I never got that he came on to men who felt uncomfortable.
Well, the weird thing is here is what we're looking at Liberace as. Are we looking at Liberace as his squeaky clean persona, or are we looking at Liberace with what we see in the film, you know, all aspects of him?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just mean the kind of initial thing that you get from him. Like, when he comes on to you, he's a little bit flirty, but it's kind of done in a really nice way.
Oh, yeah. He was always coming out of his way to make sure that you liked him in the best of ways.
Exactly.
A modern day version of that always wants to be liked. Bit flamboyant. I don't know. A lot of reality stars, probably. A lot
Yeah.
of reality. Well, I mean, we watched the thing afterwards that without Liberace, we don't get old school Elton John. You know.
No, Lady Gaga.
We probably don't get. I would say even to some degree Tim Minchin as well. Tim Minchin has a kind of flair of Liberace-ness to him. The way he performs, anyway, you know.
Yeah, slightly eccentric. Amazing musician. Talks to his audience while he's playing.
His own personality comes through. Like, he's distinctly Tim Minchin. You can't be Tim Minchin-esque. There's only one of them. I mean, the one you would obviously jump to is probably Michael Jackson, and later on, you know.
Yeah.
Later into the career of Michael Jackson.
It's interesting that I don't know. I feel like, so you know when they're in that lawyer room and they've got the contracts out and all this stuff, and Liberace's answering all the questions from Scott's lawyer, and he says, "Did you ever give Scott any jewelry?" And while he's telling him, he's looking at Scott, and he's got that evil glint in his eye, and it's like the first time that you kind of see him as not nice or not has like a dark side to him. Do you know what I mean? Like in terms of like facial expressions.
Well, the thing is was that specifically in the book, or was it a choice?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think
It'd be interesting to read the book.
You'd be a bit pissed off if somebody's coming for you for money. And you're going, I'm just sitting in a room with lawyers eventually. Have you considered... It'd be like, say, Anouk, if me and you had that situation, you would look at me with distaste for being like, I can't believe we're here.
Well, the interesting thing about how this film is edited, though, is that there are moments when Scott looks like an arsehole, but then Liberace definitely is a hypocrite.
Yeah, of course.
Because he's like, do you want to see other people? And then he's like, I can't. Are you sleeping with him? It's only me, and all this stuff. And it's like
right afterwards, yeah.
Right after, and then when he's sleeping with this young boy, he is, basically tells Scott to hit the road.
But they did reconcile in the end. That's also true. Pretty much everything. It's quite impressive. It's in par with what is in the documentary. I think we're touching the end. The very last scene utilizes a song from the Man of La Mancha, a 1955 musical, The Impossible Dream, The Quest. It's interesting because it reminded me, and it links because the guy who introduces Liberace to Scott is Bob Black, who is played by Scott Bakula, who he sang in the original soundtrack of Quantum Leap. He does. There is a Man of La Mancha medley, and that's one of the albums. Although I'm still struggling with musicals, and you'll see that it changed quite a bit in the next episode when we talk about Anna and the Apocalypse. It was nice to jump back into the time in 1991 or something, where I was when I was a fan of Quantum Leap and that soundtrack and those musics and stuff. Which is also interesting because Scott Bakula, as just like the dad in Malcolm in the Middle, who went on to do Breaking Bad. Scott Bakula was Sam in Quantum Leap. He was the captain in Star Trek Enterprise, and now he's in NCIS, I think, these days.
Nice.
Very interesting kind of career, like Richard Dean Anderson, MacGyver, Stargate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's quite interesting.
This film was shot on Epic Red.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's quite cool.
Yeah. Before we go into that plugin stuff and a few other things, maybe the rating. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. So Anouk and Yann was behind the Candelabra, which I've been practicing relentlessly because I couldn't say it this morning.
Me neither.
Good, bad, or just plain standard? Yann?
Good. Good, and it. I never heard. it's just like in this one and another movie I've seen in cinemas recently. I heard about Arthur Rubinstein, who I just know is a pianist. I know, and I don't know anything about him yet. I didn't know anything about Liberace, besides the fact probably I heard his name mentioned once at some point. So I'm quite glad I watched this, and it made me want to investigate a bit further. So yeah, good and good.
Anouk?
Yeah, so I agree. I really want to read Scott Thorson's
Thorson, yeah.
Thorson, sorry, book. And maybe even the world of Liberace as well. The kind of fake one that he wanted to put out, the persona. I think that'd be really interesting. Because it's like, looking through the lens of, what it was like to be gay and a celebrity in the 80s. And just that flamboyant character who was so, loved, but also so broken as a person, but also broke so many people's lives. Like thinking about how many, all those young boys that were mistreated by Liberace. It's kind of nice to, give them a story. So yeah, definitely good.
For me, there's something about this film. I've seen it twice now, and I think I could watch it many more times. So for me, it's quite interesting. I'm like, this is a very high goods. I'm even wondering in a couple of years, would this transcend to sort of like, I don't know, maybe not a masterpiece, but definitely a piece of timeless cinema. I don't know, there was just something about the way that this was done that there was never a boring shot. There was never like cut to, cut back to, over the shoulder stuff. There was always something going on. The story is interesting. The performances are great. The costumes are phenomenal. All the work gone into this is just phenomenal, especially for being something that was a TV, what we consider a TV movie. So I think this is a real achievement for the whole production of this film. So it's a very high good and a very strong recommend. So yeah, high in the good category for me.
Yeah.
Cool. We're good on this then.
Yeah.
It's plugging time. France,
Scotland,
England.
Go podcast rangers, mighty plug-in podcast rangers. Go podcast rangers, mighty plug-in podcast rangers. So Anouk, what's going on currently in your life in terms of stage?
So I am in Fizgig Theatre Company's pantomime this year, touring Scotland. Next week I'll be in Thurso and Brora, and then a few more places in Glasgow and around Glasgow until the 22nd of December. So yeah, if you guys are in any of those places, definitely come along.
I think you have to call to get tickets, is that it?
There's also online, or I can get you tickets as well if you want to DM me.
Did you say what the pantomime was?
Oh, sorry, it's Aladdin.
Oh no, it's not.
Oh yes, it is. It's Aladdin. I'll be playing Aladdin, which is awesome.
To bring it back to when we were talking about the right type of casting at the beginning of the film. The podcast.
Well, see, exactly.
Swings and roundabouts. It all comes back around, doesn't it?
Exactly. It's literally, I have never had one comment about it. It's not even a thing.
I know.
This whole thing is learned. Kids don't care, which is great.
It's good. You're teaching the new generation that casting doesn't have to be so regimented.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I mean, it's nice because, like the young girls will like immediately run to Princess Coriander after the show, and like they'll like all say hi, and they like that the baddie turns good in the end. I don't know. It's just a really nice thing to do a show for kids.
Yeah.
Because they are so lovely. Well, some of them. I've had really bad performances, but yeah.
Majority.
So majority always amazing. So I'm really excited actually. And learning a lot, like, in a van touring around Scotland, seeing all these schools that are in like good, bad, medium backgrounds, and you've also got like, bringing flats and props and pins and, setting up your own staging area and, in 20 minutes and having 1 hour and makeup and all this stuff. Like, there's so much stuff going on, blah, blah, blah. So it's incredible.
And when is the last date? Is that
22nd of December, I'll be in Govan Hill Church, which is in Southside of Glasgow.
okay?
And that's probably the best time that you guys will.
Yeah, probably
if you're
that,
still
yeah.
around.
Well, I will be. I'm
Um,
going to Berlin the next day, so.
Yeah.
Same, but not in Berlin, in Provence.
When's your flight?
23rd.
No, what time?
I don't remember.
Because I was just like in the morning.
Yeah, I think mine is 10, but yours is 7 or something.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
way earlier. Yeah, lucky you.
Uh,
Before we go, I want to show something off that I pieced together from gifts.
I was about to get to that. So
Sweet.
yeah, that's great
Um,
minds.
Thing alike.
Oh, amazing.
So this is I don't know. We've had this frame for ages, which was meant to be. There's a poster featured in one of the old podcast episodes with the video feed, which is my 100 movie bucket list thing. But I've not finished it yet, and it doesn't fit in this frame. So we've had this frame just kicking about for ages, and I thought, oh, we could put the Polaroids for the guests and stuff, or we could put the floor plans that we get from Floor Plan Croissant. And we've got loads. We have more than this, but. I think if I look correctly, the middle lane is all 3 Phantom Threads, and then there's 2 up here.
Can't
Yeah,
hear you.
up there, the top up here are the Call Me By Your Name ones as well. So, yeah, this will forever be in the background of our podcasts. I'll take a photo and put it on the Instagram. What the frame looks like, and obviously we will link to her Instagram and Patreon page if you like this sort of art, because it's extremely well detailed and it looks great, and as you can see, it fits nicely into a frame, so it makes a nice piece of art for your wall.
Yeah, I received a really neat box to put them in at the very first package. I wasn't sure what it was, but but we actually chose to have them on display in the end.
Why not?
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, and she's an avid listener, so
Yeah.
Xokso to Boriana.
Ah, definitely sending really good vibes
yeah,
to you.
we'll have to get another frame soon, because we are collecting even more. Maybe there'll be another.
Oh,
Either
keep them coming.
Get a bigger frame, or another one of these will go up somewhere.
Yeah, definitely keep them coming.
I'll just stick that back
literally
now.
every time that we see a new one, it's like they're so well done and super talented person.
I ordered 2 big prints for Christmas. Some family members. I'm not disclosing who they are because I'm not.
Yeah, good.
All right.
I think we're good. Next episode should be Anna and the Apocalypse.
Yes.
Oh no, it isn't.
Oh yes, it is.
All right, we'll see you then.
Bye, guys. Thank
yeah.
you.
Bye bye. We were
Adam.
Anouk.
and Yann. See you around.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Good, the Bad, and the Just Plain Standard podcast. If you like what you heard, you can leave us a review via iTunes. If you want to keep up to date with what we're doing, you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Good, Bad, Standard Podcast on both platforms. If you fancy seeing the live streams that we talk about in the podcast, they can be found on youtube.com. You search for Milk in a Wineglass. There are other bits and bobs on there too, just to see what Yann's up to during the week. And if you really like us, like really, really like us, why don't you head on over to patreon.com/goodbadstandardpodcast and have a look if you want to support us. Any small donation is appreciated.